That is California Democrat Congressman Khanna, of course, who joins me now. He serves on the House Oversight and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, good to have you here. Thank you very much. So as we get closer to this deadline, and, you hear the pushback, and you're part of it there, I guess, I would just ask you where the war crime is and whether or not you think that Iran has been guilty of war crimes, killing almost 40,000 of their own people, gunning them down in the street.
Martha, obviously Iran is guilty of war crimes, but America is different. We don't go threatening genocide. We don't threaten to wipe civilizations off the face of the earth. That is what makes America different. The president doing this is destroying everything this country stands for. We're the good guys. We're the ones who defeated tyranny.
Let me ask you this. So, we've all been watching President Trump for a long time. Is that really what you see here? Or do you see this as a way to get Iran to open up the strait, to come to negotiations, and hopefully to have new leadership that won't oppress its people, new leadership that won't make children and women line up around energy sites, which is a Geneva Convention violation? I think we need to look at the history of the way that President Trump negotiates these things and to see that, unless you're very clear and you have a serious stick that you're holding over this situation, you're not likely to get anywhere.
Martha, you don't have to threaten genocide to get Iran to open up the Strait of Hormuz. We've lost the plot here. The president has lost the plot. The president went in to say that he wanted to free the Iranian people. Now he's talking about destroying 90 million people.
I was speaking with Nazimonian, and I've spoken with a lot of Iranian activists who want this.
They want him to threaten to wipe out 91 million people?
I think they understand what. I don't think anyone's talking about
this. Is not a New York real estate deal. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
The commander-in-chief was saying we're going to kill 91 million.
I guess the question is, what do you suggest?
I'll tell you what we can do to end the war.
Let me just clarify my question. So this is a leadership that has killed 1,500 American soldiers, maimed 4,500. They have, through proxies,
they're an evil regime. You're not
carried off October 7th, the Beirut Marine barracks bombing.
Yes, they're horrible.
At what point? So you really think that they're going to suddenly decide to give these things up if they are not threatened with actual consequences?
We had, before the president went in, gas was at $2.30 a gallon. It's gone up to $4. Before we went in, the Strait of Hormuz was open. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Before we went in, 13 Americans had not lost their lives.
In 4 weeks.
And we have a situation where we've replaced Khamenei with Khamenei Jr., who is even a greater hardliner. And we've empowered the IRGC, which is a military terrorist organization. We've made Iran become a more hardline state. And the enriched uranium is still buried underground.
So let me ask you something. So don't ever stand up and fight against this, what you just called an evil regime. What do you suggest? Because we've had 47 years of weakness on this front.
I don't think America should go in and start declaring war against every evil regime in the world. Should we go and declare war against Putin? Should we go and declare war against every dictatorship? What we should have done is had tough diplomacy that would have actually gotten rid of the enriched uranium.
How has that worked so far? How has that worked so far?
Well, it was working until Trump ripped up the deals. And the reality is, Martha, do you really believe that Iran was going to threaten New York or the American homeland? They didn't have an ICBM.
I'll tell you what I believe. I believe they already killed 1,500 of our American soldiers.
They've killed 13 more because of Donald Trump's decision.
They killed 200 in a Marine barracks in Lebanon. I don't need any more evidence that they want to threaten. They also march in the streets, say death to America. What more evidence do you need?
You're fairly reasonable. Do you believe that it was not insulting and in violation of everything we believe in to threaten to wipe out 91 million Americans? Would Ronald Reagan have ever done that? Would any other American president have ever threatened to wipe out 91 million people? I don't think Reagan did that at the height of the Cold War.
I guess what I would say
FDR probably didn't do that even when we were fighting Nazism.
What I'm looking at is...
No, but answer that question, Martha. Would FDR have said, let's just wipe out the German people?
I can easily answer your question. We know who tried to actually wipe out entire populations in World War II.
Yes,
we
Hitler.
know the kind of backbone and spine that it took on the part of the United States of America to end those tyrannies.
With morality.
So what I'm seeing is someone who is
Donald Trump has no morality.
I think you have to... I'm kind of surprised, actually, that people haven't... that you don't get how the language works.
I get it if he's a real estate dealer. I don't get it when you're president of the United States with the inheritance of people
But you're more concerned about the language than the outcome. outcome.
No, I'm concerned about our values. I'm concerned that no American president would have done this. Do you think Ronald Reagan would have used this language?
No, because Ronald Reagan isn't President Trump, and President Trump isn't FDR.
Do you think George Washington would have? Do you think he said, let's wipe out the British people? Donald Trump has compromised every moral standing we have as a nation. What makes America different?
So you like the language of President Biden on this, of President Obama on this, who tried to make deals, who had negotiations.
Of every other American president.
Nothing changed.
Of every other American president.
And you talk to Iranian people in this country who are wanting to have this regime overthrown.
That's not true, Martha. Obama got 97% of the enriched uranium out. Then Trump came in and he ripped up the deals. And that's when...
And gave $30 million that went into the weapons chest of Iran.
That is not true. That is they unfroze
30 billion. 30 billion.
They unfroze the assets.
Exactly.
But that was not
that worked
money.
Out
that was
right?
not U.S. taxpayer money. But the point is, what did Trump achieve? 97% of enriched uranium was gone. Then Trump comes in, he rips it up. 60% enriched uranium in Iran.
4 weeks.
Well, he's gotten the price of gas up. He's put our troops at risk. 13 Americans have lost their lives.
You may end up...
And we've now threatening to wipe out a nation, which makes us no different than every other country. What makes us different is when we go to war, we care about civilians. When we go to war, we care about
Do you care about the
40,000
people who were killed in the street by this regime?
Yes, I called that out. I called that out when it was happening.
What does calling it out do?
Well, what calling it out does is that what we needed to do is to have a negotiation and tough diplomacy with sanctions to get them not to have nuclear weapons. But
you did all that. Then they killed 40,000 people.
But here's the thing. American people are tired of going and being the world's policeman and thinking that we're going to go take out every evil regime. We did that with Libya. It didn't work. We did that with Saddam Hussein. It didn't work. And guess who campaigned against that? Donald Trump. He said, I'm going to care about jobs here. I'm going to care about child care here. I'm going to care about manufacturing here. And now he's asking for $400 billion to go fight a war in Iran. Now he's putting our troops at risk in Iran. You know what I want the American president to do? To care about our people, to care about our jobs, our child care, our health care. He has, I don't know who's gotten in his head.
All right, well, we have breaking news. We've had 4 weeks of this versus 47 years of what hasn't worked so far. And I appreciate the fact that you don't like the language around it. We're going to watch actual action and see what happens. We'll see what the outcome is. But I thank you very much for being here. It's an American debate that's clearly going on in the country, and I thank you for coming by.
Appreciate having me.
Thank you, Congressman. We do have some breaking news now that I want to get to you.